The 30-day challenge that changed my life. My name is Adam, and I changed my life in just 30 days, with no coach, no money, and no idea what I was doing. Just pain, goals, and a decision to stop being lazy. 1 month ago, I looked in the mirror and did not like what I saw. I was tired, unmotivated, and lost. My room was a mess, my phone was full of useless videos, and my brain felt slow. I was not learning. I was not growing. I was stuck. But that day, I made a deal with myself. 30 days. Every day, I would wake up early, work out, study English, learn something new, and write my goals. No alcohol, no video games, no excuses. I called it my reset month. I didn't know what would happen, but I knew one thing. I was tired of feeling like a failure. Chapter 1. Day 1. I woke up at 6 in the morning even though I went to sleep at 2. And my head felt heavy like a stone, and I almost stayed in bed. But I remembered my promise. So I stood up, drank a glass of cold water, and looked at myself in the mirror with sleepy eyes. I looked weak, unshaved, and slow. But I said out loud, "Let's go," and I did 10 push-ups on the cold floor. After that, I opened a YouTube video called English for Beginners and listened for 20 minutes. I didn't understand everything, but I wrote down new words and repeated them again and again until they started to sound familiar. Then I made a simple breakfast and sat with a notebook where I wrote my goals for the day. It felt strange, like I was pretending to be someone I was not, but also I felt proud because I had never done this before. By 10 in the morning, I had already done more than I usually did in a whole day. At night, I was tired, but I didn't watch Netflix or scroll my phone. I wrote in my journal today I started. That was all, but it was enough. Chapter 2. The first week. The first few days were very hard because my body was not used to waking up early or moving so much, and my mind kept asking, "Why are you doing this?" Every morning I wanted to stay in bed, but I pushed myself to stand up, drink water, do push-ups, and listen to English videos. Sometimes I repeated the same 10 words for 30 minutes because I couldn't remember them. I felt stupid and slow, but I didn't stop because I remembered my promise. I watched English stories with subtitles, and even when I didn't understand, I stayed and tried. I started doing 20 push-ups instead of 10 and went for short walks outside to breathe fresh air and think about my goals. On day 4, I didn't want to do anything, but I told myself, just start 5 minutes, and then I did more. On day 6, I noticed my clothes started to feel a little looser, and I felt more energy in the morning. I wrote in my journal, "I am starting to believe in myself." On day 7, I looked in the mirror and saw someone different, not strong yet, but more alive. It was still hard, but I knew I was changing. Chapter 3. The breakdown on day 10. Everything went wrong because I overslept. I missed my morning workout, and I didn't study any English. I felt angry with myself, and my mind said, "You failed. Now it's over. Just stop and go back to your old life." That day I ate junk food, watched stupid videos for hours, and didn't even write in my journal. I told myself it's just one day, but the next day I felt weak again and skipped everything once more. 2 days passed with no progress, and I started to think maybe I'm not strong. Maybe this challenge is too hard for me. On day 12, I sat alone in my room with dirty clothes on the floor, and my notebook closed for 2 days. I felt like a loser and almost gave up. But then I opened my phone and watched a video I saved on day 1. It was a speech that said, "You don't fail when you fall. You fail when you don't stand up." I listened to it 3 times, and something inside me woke up. I stood up, cleaned my room, took a cold shower, and opened my English notebook. I wrote on the first page, "I am not finished," and that night I did the hardest workout yet. My body hurt, but my heart felt strong again. Chapter 4. The change begins. After the breakdown, something changed inside me because I stopped waiting for motivation and just started doing the work no matter how I felt. Each morning I got up without thinking, I just moved. I did my push-ups, then my English listening, then my walk, then my goals. My brain stopped fighting and started helping. I began to understand more English videos, and I repeated full sentences. Not just words. I learned to say things like I want to, improve myself, and I believe in small steps. I started using English when I wrote my goals, and even in my journal, my body also changed because my arms felt stronger, my face looked more awake, and I had more energy than before. One day, my neighbor saw me outside and said, "Hey, you look good. What are you doing?" I smiled and said, "Just working on myself." That was the first time someone noticed. At night, I watched one motivational story in English, and I felt like I was part of something bigger. Like I was not alone. I wrote in my journal today, I felt proud, and I meant it. Chapter 5. The Challenge. Grows at the start of the third week. I felt strong and confident, so I decided to push harder and do more each day. I woke up earlier, tried longer workouts, studied English for more than 1 hour, and even started reading a simple book in English. But after a few days, I felt tired again. Not in my body, but in my mind. It was like my brain was full and nothing more could go in. I forgot. New words. Quickly, I made mistakes in writing, and I started to feel frustrated. I said to myself, why am I trying so hard if I still fail? I didn't want to slow down. But I remembered something I learned from a podcast in English. It said, slow progress is still progress. So I changed my plan. Instead of more, I focused on better. I read smaller parts of the book, but I understood them. I did shorter workouts, but with more control. I learned fewer words, but used them in real life. That week, I felt my focus return. I was not just doing the challenge anymore. I was living it. Chapter 6. The new me one morning. I looked in the mirror and I saw someone new. Not just stronger, but more alive, more focused, and more real. My eyes looked different, more clear, and my back was straight, not because I tried, but because I felt proud. I put on a shirt that used to feel tight, and now it fit perfectly. Even my voice sounded stronger when I spoke. I recorded myself speaking English, and I didn't hate how I sounded. It was still simple, but it was me, and it was real. At the store, I said thank you to the cashier in English, and she smiled and replied, "You're welcome." That moment felt like winning a gold medal. In my journal, I wrote today, I felt like a person who is moving forward. At night, I looked at my day plan and realized I didn't feel tired. I felt full of new ideas, new energy, and new life. I was no longer the same person who started this challenge. That person was lost. This one was becoming someone worth being. Chapter 7. The last day on day 30. I woke up before the alarm and the sun was shining through my window, but something was different because I felt calm. Not tired, not excited, just calm. I did my morning routine, like always push-ups, cold water, English video journal, and I didn't need to force anything. Everything felt natural, like it was part of me. I opened my notebook and looked back at day 1 when I wrote I feel lost, and now I wrote I feel alive. My body was stronger. My mind was clearer. And my heart was open again. I had not become rich or famous, but I had become someone I could respect. I looked around my clean room with books on the table, and no more garbage on the floor I had built. A small life from nothing in just 30 days. At night, I sat by the window and watched the city lights. I said to myself, I'm not finished. This was not the end. This was just the beginning. And I smiled because now I knew I could do anything if I really wanted it. Chapter 8. 1. A new vision. It was already the second day after I finished the 30-day challenge, but I still felt like I was inside it. I woke up without an alarm, did my routine, and sat down with my notebook. But something was different. I didn't feel like I was just trying to fix my life anymore. I felt like I was ready to build something new. For the first time in many months, I wasn't thinking about survival. I was thinking about growth. I wrote one sentence in my journal. If I can change myself, maybe I can change my future too. I looked at the words and smiled. That thought excited me. I started dreaming again. Not just about being better, but about being someone who does something great. I wanted more than good habits. I wanted a purpose. I didn't know what it was yet, but I felt it somewhere inside me. That day I read something in English that stayed in my mind. Vision is seeing what does not yet exist and walking toward it anyway. I read it 3 times. It felt like it was written for me. And that evening, I made a new decision. The challenge is not over. It's just changing shape. From now on, my challenge is not just to improve, it's to create. Chapter 8. 2. A new dream. That night, I lay in bed with my eyes open, thinking not about who I was, but who I could become. I asked myself big questions. What do I love? What makes me feel alive? What would I do every day if money didn't matter? And then I remembered something I had forgotten for years. When I was a kid, I loved drawing. I used to spend hours sketching cars, cities, and comic book heroes. But as I grew up, I stopped. People told me it's not serious, that it's not a real job, and slowly I believed them. But now, after 30 days of discipline and clarity, that old dream came back. I opened my notebook and wrote, I want to become a designer, not just for fun, but for real. I didn't know how, but I didn't care. I had started something before with no idea what I was doing. Why not do it again? The next morning, I searched online in English, how to become a graphic designer. I watched videos, read articles, and found free courses. My English still wasn't perfect, but I understood enough to begin. I made a new folder on my computer and called it The New Dream. It felt scary, but also exciting. For the first time, I wasn't just fixing my life. I was designing my future. Chapter 8:3. A New Routine. The days that followed were full of energy, but also full of chaos. I was no longer just learning English. I was now using English to learn new skills. Everything was in English. The videos, the software tutorials, the design books, the online communities. It was scary, but it also made me better, faster. I created a new daily routine. In the morning, I still did my push-ups, drank water, and watched an English video, but now it was about design or creativity. Then I spent 1 or 2 hours practicing, learning Photoshop tools, copying simple designs, reading about colors and composition. It felt like learning a new language again, but this time, with purpose. Sometimes I failed. I made ugly designs. I got frustrated. I even thought of quitting. But I always remembered the first challenge. 30 days of pain turned into progress. Now I knew how to keep going, even when it wasn't easy. After 1 week, I made my first simple poster. I posted it in an online forum. I was nervous. I thought no one would care, but someone wrote back and said, "Nice color work. Keep going." That small comment meant the world to me. It was the first time I felt seen for something I created, not just something I finished. I went to bed that night with a new feeling, not just discipline, not just motivation, but pride. I was building something real. I was building myself. Epilogue. Some people wait for the perfect day to start changing their life. But that day never comes. The truth is, change begins the moment you decide to stop waiting. I didn't need perfect English. I didn't need a gym or a coach. I just needed one thing, the decision to try. And that one decision changed everything.